Welcome to TV Tennessee Valley Church. I'm John Lemons, the minister to young adults at First Baptist Church in Huntsville, Alabama. Who do you look like? Have you ever had a friend or stranger tell you that you resemble someone they know or even someone famous? Throughout my life, I've been told that I look like various people. Before I had a beard, I often got compared to a young Mickey Rourke or Lars Ulrich, the drummer for Metallica. More recently, some have said that I resemble Lin-Manuel Miranda from Hamilton, but I don't really see that one. For the past 10 years or so, countless people have told me that they think I look like the comedian Nate Bargatze. Some say it's the way I look, others point to our mannerisms or the way that I talk. I've even been asked to recite his comedy routines for people before. Once at a Starbucks, the barista took my name after taking my order and then asked, "Has anyone ever told you that you look like Nate Bargatze?" Now, while I'm flattered because he's my favorite comedian and I think he's a handsome guy, it's not one that I've always seen between the two of us. Now, beyond famous people, I resemble my family. Though I never met my grandfather on my dad's side, photos of him look like a black and white version of a younger me. Once at my former church, a member once met my visiting dad and then said to me, "John, I knew this was your dad before I knew this was your dad." So again, who do you look like? The Bible tells us that we were created in the image of God, or as it's known by its Latin term, the Imago Dei. Biblical scholars debate what exactly this means, whether it's consciousness or community or the capacity to love, but whatever it is, many think that understanding the function of an image in ancient times can help us to understand what it means. Ancient rulers often had statues of themselves placed at the borders of their territory to assert their rule and to remind the people who they served who was really in charge. Similarly, ancient people didn't think that stone and wood carvings of what we would call idols were the gods themselves, but they thought that they were images that represented the gods. So in Exodus chapter 20, verses 4 through 6, when God is giving Moses the 10 Commandments, he includes the command not to make any graven images. Now, this is often seen as a command against idolatry, but it also reminds us of our identity. Creating a graven image of God not only distracts us from God, but it also diminishes our view of humanity. God has already made images of himself. You, me, our family, friends, co-workers, neighbors, and even those people that we despise. You and I and every person who has ever lived are all the images of God, created to declare who is in charge. You may have heard recently in the news or on social media about advancements in artificial intelligence, or AI, a rapidly developing and evolving technology. In fact, even as we are recording this, Apple has announced that their next batch of iOS updates will include what they call Apple Intelligence. It will, in essence, be Siri on steroids. In a nutshell, while God created us to bear his image, my understanding of AI is that we have created AI to bear our image. We want AI to look, talk, think, and write like us, and to help us do what we can't. We expect AI to process information faster and to protect us from ourselves, which is the justification for things like automated cars and airplanes. But it's not just inconveniences like cars and airplanes. We are finding AI making its way into our jobs and our everyday worlds. There's a fully automated McDonald's drive-thru in Fort Worth, Texas. And baseball is experimenting right now with an automated strike zone. You might even worry that AI will soon assist or replace you at your job. And maybe you hope one day it will replace me at mine. This rapid advancement of AI raises many moral and ethical issues as well. Recent congressional hearings have reflected our elected leaders' struggle to understand and to regulate this technology. The ability to create what are called deepfakes is a significant concern. Maybe you've also heard recently about the high school coach in Baltimore who tried to frame his principal with a deep fake recording that imitated the principal's voice. It was eventually determined to be fake, but as that technology improves, this will become harder to detect. Now, back in my day, people worried about illegally downloading music, and that was legitimate. It was stealing from artists. But today, artists are being mimicked by AI. Last year, a controversy erupted over a song that sounded like Drake in The Weeknd, but it was entirely AI generated. OpenAI's recent release of ChatGPT 4.0 faced backlash because the voice, meant to sound like Scarlett Johansson, did so without her consent, and it led to a lawsuit. The writers' strike in Hollywood was partly about this issue, and AI's potential impact on politics is also concerning. But it's not only going to affect public figures. Apps exist now that allow people to make deepfakes of you, images and videos and recordings of things that you would never say or do. It is, in a word, exploitative. So with all that said, let's turn to our text for today, Colossians chapter 3, verses 1 through 14.
Since then you have been raised with Christ, set your hearts on things above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. For you died, and your life is now hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you also will appear with him in glory. Put to death, therefore, whatever belongs to your earthly nature, sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, and greed, which is idolatry. Because of these, the wrath of God is coming. You used to walk in these ways in the life you once lived. But now you must also rid yourselves of all things such as these: anger, rage, malice, slander, and filthy language from your lips. Do not lie to each other, since you have taken off your old self with its practices and have put on the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge in the image of its Creator. Here there is no Gentile or Jew, circumcised or uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave or free, but Christ is all and is in all. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you, and over all these virtues put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity.
Have you ever heard of image restoration? It's done on old or grainy photos in an attempt to restore what was really there. It's also done in art, like the famous restoration of Michelangelo's frescoes in the Sistine Chapel that was done in the last half of the 20th century. Perhaps the most famous recent occasion of this is the fresco Ecce Homo, which means "Behold the man," on the sanctuary wall of a church in Spain. The Bible tells us more about the image of God being in us than simply that we were created with it. It also tells us that we have tarnished that image and it needs restoration. Paul references this in Colossians chapter 3. Followers of Jesus with tarnished images of God are urged not to focus on earthly things, things which tarnish our image and that are listed in verses 5 through 9. Instead, we should set our hearts and minds above, is what Paul says. This echoes Jesus' words to love the Lord with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven. So why is Paul doing this? Because Jesus is the more perfect, untarnished image of God, as he's told the Colossians earlier in chapter 1. This AI revolution acknowledges this basic doctrine, that we are slightly tarnished and imperfect, but a more perfect version of us exists somewhere. The development of automated cars, planes, and umpires acknowledges our flaws and our attempts to remove human error. Deepfake tech, the discussions around that recognize our difficulty in discerning reality from falsehood and our tendency to exploit each other. So how should Christians respond to all that? While AI is new, the underlying issues aren't. Tech has always exposed our shortcomings, whether it was tools and farm equipment that exposed our limited strength and endurance, or the development of photography, which exposed our limited memory and artistic skills. For Christians, the response is the same as it has always been, to remind ourselves that we are human and that God is not done with us yet, flaws and all. I have wondered how AI will affect our lives going forward. Will we gravitate more towards local, in-person entertainment because we know that it's human? Will teachers assign handwritten work again and even accept errors because it ensures that it's not automated? Will the economy urge us to, quote, buy human like we are now urged to buy local? Will imperfection become the new perfect because it signifies that whatever it is human? If so, then churches and gatherings of people will become increasingly important. We will also need to fight exploitation, as we always have. From the first century Christian stances against the exploitation of women and children to the abolition of slavery, which was first advocated for by Gregory of Nyssa 1700 years ago, the church has a history of fighting for human dignity. The theology of the image of God, which recognizes inherent human worth, well, it drove those movements. This compelling theology of the image of God was crucial for churches and Christians in a first century culture, and I believe it will be crucial for churches and Christians in a 21st century culture. I think it will be the issue for the next 20 or 30 years of Christianity, just as it was a major issue for the first 20 or 30 years of Christianity. What is old is now new again.
Welcome to Toyota Field, the home of the Trash Pandas, and we have the voice of the Trash Pandas, Josh Carey, here with us today. And Josh, it's great to see you again.
Great to see you, Lisa.
Thanks for having us back out here today.
Oh, always thrilled to have you guys, and I'm glad things are going so well for all of you.
We're in the fourth season for the Trash Pandas. How's it going?
Well, team's all right. We're about 500 right now. We just came off a series against the Mississippi Braves, and we're getting ready for another series at home beginning tomorrow. So the fans have been showing up year after year, and we're always happy to have them out.
And for those that don't know, Josh Carey is the grandson of Harry Carey, the Hall of Fame sportscaster, the voice of baseball, some would say.
Well, one of them, but yeah, Grandpa had quite the legacy over in Chicago. My dad continued that in Atlanta as well. So very proud of the family I come from, and happy to be carrying on the legacy, if you will.
Josh, today John's message is about we are made in God's image. Now we've created artificial intelligence to be a better version of us.
Right.
AI is everywhere. How is it affecting the sports industry?
Well, at the AAA level of baseball right now, they have what they call the ABS system, the automated ball strike system. And what happens is anytime a pitcher throws a pitch and it's a borderline call, whether it's a strike or a ball, whatever the umpire calls, either the pitcher or the hitter can appeal to that. And from a computer screen, they can determine from the press box whether the pitch was within the strike zone or not. That's probably the biggest piece of AI that we're seeing right now. It's not at the AA level. You wouldn't see that at a Trash Pandas game, but it's happening at the AAA level right above us. And it's pretty much, I think it's pretty much accepted at this point. It's going to ultimately reach the major leagues and frankly make the jobs a lot easier for umpires. They won't have to call balls and strikes. They'll just focus on everything else along the field and try to get that done. And of course, you have instant replay as well. So those are some of the typical things. And then within the analytics version of baseball, we have things like Hawkeye that measures the trajectory of a ball off a bat, or how far a ball's hit, or how fast a pitcher's throwing, a radar gun. So there's always different types of AI and machinations that are going on right now that are continue to expand throughout the game.
Now, what do you think your granddad, Harry Carey, what would he say about all the artificial intelligence in sports?
He'd think it's crazy, just because he came from a different generation where, you know, you show up, you play the game, the umpire's going to make calls. Sometimes the umpire will be right, sometimes he'll be wrong. You didn't overthink things as much, and it was just about the play on the field. And it was pretty routine. The problem is a lot of mistakes were made, calls were missed, plays were missed. And so I think he wouldn't like it, but I think if he got used to it a little bit, I think he'd be a little more accommodating, just because the purpose of it is to make the product better.
And one thing that AI cannot replace is just the feeling that we have of community with each other, family, and coming to the Toyota field for a Trash Panda game. I mean, it's just excitement in the air. There's no way AI can replace that.
No, at the end of the day, you need some sort of human interaction. I've heard of a lot of doctors' offices of late about using AI for medical visits. And, you know, if you have a robot that can tell you something a little more about you than maybe the human eye can, that's great, but you still need that interaction with a human being to tell you how to get healthier. And that's kind of the same thing with baseball here is, you know, having robots, you know, there's going to be some good with it, but there's also going to be some drawback to it as well if that's all we focus on. There has to be the human element involved as well.
Right, and the team spirit that you feel when you're all cheering together for your favorite sports team.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, it's going to be better to see human beings out here playing the game than robots. So we like seeing, frankly, when you go to a sporting event, you want to see other people succeed and you want to see them excel at their craft, and that's just something robots can't replace.
Right. And you all do so much to bring in families. You do things for kids. You did a Christian concert recently.
Yeah, well, we had Cornerstone Baptist Church. They had a concert here for our faith night. And that's something that we take very seriously. We know that this is the Bible Belt, and that's a big part of this community. And we try to be very accommodating to those types of things and really let people of all walks of life in here, knowing that this is a community endeavor that we have here in Trash Pandas Baseball and Toyota Field. So anytime we do something like that, we're always grateful for it.
Well, best of luck for the rest of the season.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Josh.
AI is here to stay, so it can either replace or enhance our humanity. But while it may ease our lives, it won't solve our fundamental flaws. It will not restore the tarnished image of God that resides within us. Remember the fresco that I told you about, Ecce Homo? The reason why that restoration is world famous is not because it is good, but because it is so bad. The restoration attempt was made by an untrained artist, and the result was, in a word, comical. But while it may produce a humorous chuckle in us, it is also a crystal clear picture of our attempts to restore ourselves. Even the CEO of OpenAI admits that in the future, it will become important and even necessary to hold in-person gatherings, opportunities for us to connect with other humans and remind ourselves who we are. This is a perfect opportunity for the church, and both Paul and Jesus provide the recipe. Paul tells us in Colossians 3:10-14 to bear with one another and forgive each other. This requires community. It cannot be done in a vacuum. And through that process, we will be renewed or restored in the knowledge of the image of God. What does that mean, the knowledge of the image of God? It means that through this process, we will begin to see, know, and experience what we were meant to be all along. Paul echoes this idea again in Romans 8 and in 2 Corinthians 3 and 4. God will restore us to what we were meant to be. How? Not through AI, not through tech, but simply through the age-old process of being together and choosing within that community to remove the things among us that dehumanize us and exploit us, and choosing instead to participate in the things which renew and restore us. Paul echoes Jesus. In the book of Matthew, Jesus has an encounter with the religious leaders of his day. They come trying to trick him by asking if they should pay taxes to Caesar. As they would do with statues, rulers would put their images on coins and money to remind people who the authority behind this is. So Jesus responds by holding up a coin and saying, "Whose image is on this coin?" The answer Jesus was looking for obviously was Caesar. And after they answered, he said, "Then give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's." Jesus wants us to connect some dots here. If we give Caesar what has his image stamped on it, and those are coins, and we give to God what has his image stamped on it, then what has God's image? The answer is us. You and me. Your life and mine. So how do we do this? Again, in Colossians 3, we're told by Paul to put on or to clothe ourselves. So it's like getting dressed in the morning. It's a day-to-day in and out of community with other people, with other image bearers of God, and day-to-day giving to God what is God's. That will be what God uses to renew and restore us. Our future is not an automated one. It is an embodied one. We don't need other images or other intelligences. We will see a day when we will bear the perfect image that we were meant to bear all along. This will not happen through AI or tech, but through this daily and gradual process. It is in communities where we carry one another, forgive one another, and love one another that our flaws will be taken away and we will be what we were meant to be. Our image of God will be restored, and people will say of us, "You look like him. You share his mannerisms." And I knew who your father was before I knew who your father was.
Surely your goodness and loving kindness will follow me all my life. Surely your goodness and loving kindness will follow me all my life. You are my shepherd, I shall not want. When you are my shepherd, I shall not want. Surely your goodness and loving kindness will follow me all my life. never forsake me. You never forsake me. And you're a good Father. You'll never leave me. You never forsake me. You never forsake me. And you're a good Father. And you'll never leave me. You never forsake me. You never forsake me. And you're a good Father. And you'll never leave me. You never forsake me. You never forsake me. When you are my shepherd, I shall not want.
Hi everyone, I'm Holly Knupp, Minister to Median Adults at First Baptist Huntsville. We are folks in our 40s and 50s, married, single, and empty nesters. We'd like to invite you to any of our in-person studies, small groups, or social events. Check out our website or email me at holly@fbchsv.org for more information. We look forward to building community and growing our faith together with you.